What's going on, FUD Nation, and welcome back. Today we have a really exciting episode as all signs are pointed upward for the cryptocurrency industry, potentially for the first time in multiple years. That's right, it feels like the bears are really at their wits' end as the price resilience in Bitcoin has shown strength. Every single aspect of the fundamentals have shown strength, and critically, there has been a complete 180 change of direction in China, one of the most, if not the most influential market in the entire cryptocurrency space, not only on cryptocurrency ownership and blockchain technology, but also now reversing the mining ban on Bitcoin. We all know that most of the mining in Bitcoin was historically controlled by China, and this could mean incredibly bullish things for the entire industry, specifically Bitcoin, which of course is very good for all of the altcoins. We also have some great news about Stellar Lumens in a phenomenal chat with the CBDO of TomoChain, which is an amazingly scalable blockchain out of Vietnam. It's all coming up for you right now. So strap in, everybody. If you're excited, throw a like on this video and let's dive in. First of all, I just wanted to start off with this almost shocking report that 30% of Americans believe the US dollar is backed by gold. I mean, there was that report that most of the money flowing between Russia and China is done through Tether and that the traders don't actually care if it's backed because it works. And so I don't know if this is going to be, shocking and devastating to this 30% of America that believes that the dollar is backed by gold, but we are certainly setting ourselves up for interesting times here as the dollar's prevalence as the international currency and its strength are certainly going to be tested in the coming years, just as Bitcoin is becoming the strongest it's ever been. So let's go into everything bullish about Bitcoin and then some, starting right now. By the way, before moving on, the poll was conducted by Genesis Mining and it will be linked in the description below. Next, I want to briefly touch on some chart analysis. Now, you guys know I don't like to bring you chart analysis myself, but I have my buddy Crown here who honestly, I've never met anyone more talented analyzing charts than Crown himself, and I've seen him make money in every kind of market. If you want the full episode, go to Crown's Crypto Cave. I'll link it in the description below. Now, he's predicting that if we get out of this narrow trading territory, it could be days or weeks before this happens, but that we could be projecting a move up to 11.5K. Now, many things can be said about Crown, but he is not bullish unless the charts give you a reason to be. And this is very exciting for me because the last time Crown got bullish like this, we made a move from about $3,000 up to $14,000. Very exciting things for Bitcoin. And if we smash through those regions, we could be looking at new all-time highs very soon. And it makes sense because not only is Bitcoin looking bullish on the charts, but the industry as a whole is fundamentally getting stronger than it's ever been and setting itself up for times that we have never witnessed before. Speaking of which, we have China reversing a ban on mining cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Now, historically, China has been the driving force behind mining Bitcoin, and we all know that the Chinese community, the Chinese people are thirsty for cryptocurrencies and digital assets, and that a more open-minded position by the government might lead to an incredible bullish push on the Bitcoin charts. This is just one of many bullish factors that are figuring in to this incredibly bullish picture that we're painting right now. We have China signing an agreement with the Hong Kong Central Bank for a blockchain push. Now, this won't directly affect cryptocurrencies, but it's just showing that the blockchain industry and crypto assets are starting to really invade every single aspect of the Chinese government as well as society, and this can only mean good things for cryptocurrency long term and the blockchain industry as a whole. Even more to this point, we have daily trading volumes on Bakkt showing an explosive amount of growth. These are physically settled Bitcoin futures, and as this grows, the demand for Bitcoin within these ecosystem grows. This is something that's not happening on CME because they are not delivering the actual Bitcoin to the people who are making gains on their futures, whereas Bakkt is. And beyond that, I want Bakkt to succeed because they have a payments layer app that they're creating for Bitcoin with such notable retailers as Starbucks on board. There is a lot going on under the Bakkt hood, and this is extremely exciting to see that their daily trading volumes are getting an incredible push, an incredible explosion here, which to me will give fuel to the fire that is the whole Bakkt ecosystem, which I think of as one of the most influential to the next phase of cryptocurrencies. Let me know, are you guys excited for the Bakkt payments app? Are you excited for what Bakkt is doing with futures? Do you think that this momentum will lead to great things for Bitcoin? Let me know in the comment section below. Very interesting stuff happening over at Stellar Lumens, where they burned half their token supply, half of 100 billion tokens worth over $4 billion. Now, this is very, very interesting, and it caused a significant pump in price. Stellar Lumens surged over 20% because of this, not quite 50%, which is what they burned, but it's pretty interesting to see that now coins are pumping based on fundamental factors, whereas that really wasn't the case for a long time here in crypto land. We'd see amazing fundamental changes, fundamental news, and there would be no effect on the price. And now it's starting to feel like when there is a big announcement, there is a big release, there is a big, action by these communities and coins, all of a sudden we're seeing movement on price, which to me spells out that we could be in another positive cycle for cryptocurrency. And of course, if the charts are showing anything, if the fundamentals are showing anything, this could be a significant run after really 2 years of bearishness in this entire market. And now we're going to hop into an interview segment with Kin, who's the Chief Business Development Officer at TomoChain. TomoChain is a very interesting project out of Vietnam, and as we're approaching a more positive cycle here, where fundamentals are starting to matter again, I'm going to start doing my best to shine a light on different projects, maybe below the sort of upper echelon of projects that might be getting a lot of media hype, and just starting to educate more about what's going on in the blockchain space. I had a great conversation with Kin, and I think it will benefit you all. So I hope you're excited for our chat with Kin from TomoChain. Welcome to the show, Kin, the Chief Business Development Officer over at TomoChain, here to explain a little bit about the project, and I think it's very relevant to the FUD TV audience here, as I want to start shining a light on some of these projects that have actually been really developing their networks, developing their projects, and as we start to see some life come back into this altcoin market, I think it's very relevant that we start shining a light and introducing you to some projects much like TomoChain. So, Kin, how are you doing?
Hey, thank you very much, Elliot. I'm doing awesome. Right now, I'm actually in San Francisco attending the convention out here. Going to New York and Singapore afterwards for other conferences. I'm doing pretty tremendous. We have had a number of successes over the last several months. Most recently, we launched Tomo X into testnet as of 2 days ago, which basically is a decentralized protocol that allows anyone to build their own decentralized exchanges right on top of the TomoChain masternode network. But it's been amazing so far. I'll tell you more about that as the interview goes on for sure.
Yeah, well, that's great. Great to hear from you. And San Francisco is a change because TomoChain, you guys are normally based in Vietnam, correct?
That's right. So actually, I'm based out of Hanoi, Vietnam itself. We have a team, we have an office in Vietnam, about 45 people out of the Hanoi office. We have an office in Japan, which focuses exclusively on enterprise solutions. And we also have business development in Singapore as well.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about how this crypto industry, this nascent industry that we're in, is developing in that part of the world. We hear a lot about China. We hear a lot about Korea, and even quite a bit about Japan as one of the first movers in the space. But what's going on in Vietnam? I really enjoyed when we first met you telling me about this development, and it makes me so excited about the global nature of this blockchain industry. Tell us what's going on over there in Vietnam.
Yeah, no, it's actually really exciting. I describe Vietnam sort of like it was in 2016 or so, and kind of the rest of the world in terms of the West and for crypto, where retail investors were just coming in. There was a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement. It hadn't quite hit that 2017 run yet. So we have a lot of very intelligent investors, retail investors, that kind of congregate into certain small communities, but they're millions of them.
Mhm.
And so active on trading. In terms of the actual development that's happening out there, we've been working with the regulators to form regulation, hopefully coming in next year. We had a symposium back in September with the Ministry of Justice. So it was a public event where we had been talking to them about how to kind of form that regulation, starting off as a sandbox in Hanoi itself. And the government has been very active and participating in the different conferences and conventions happening in Vietnam itself, because they see that this could mean a lot of growth for the country itself. So we're actually going to be doing that. Hopefully, early next year, we'll be able to really test out what we can do in crypto in Vietnam with the support of the government. We also have very strong ties to the financial institutions as well. So we have some new projects coming up next year, which kind of ties it all together, which hopefully will allow crypto users in Vietnam to start spending crypto in the real world, as in
Mhm.
going to a store or even online. And that's something I'm really, really excited for. We already have test beds set up. We have a relationship with a company that what they do is they sell these subscription services where you can buy discounted beer, you can go to Starbucks and get some coffee, and you can do all of that using Tomo. Since we've been in mainnet for the last 10 months, so it's easy for anyone in Vietnam to kind of use Tomo in in many different places basically already.
Well, that's amazing. I really like the way you allude to it being 2016 all over again in that part of the world. Obviously, 2016 was quite possibly, there are many good times to get into crypto, but that was certainly a magical moment, right? Where you had sort of a, an uninterrupted 2 year bull run there that commenced at the beginning of 2016, and you're looking at sort of what we're going through now, at least from a technical analysis perspective on Bitcoin. You're seeing signs that really are haven't been triggered since that moment in 2016. Golden crosses on the monthly. You're seeing new sort of life being breathed into the space. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by that sort of 2016 moment out there? I find that very
Sure.
interesting.
Absolutely. So up until now, I think after the 2017 into 18 run, right, the common narrative I keep hearing is like crypto winter, that retail investors are not there, there isn't interest in the space. The fact is, there's a lot of happening in the background that I think many people on crypto Twitter, on social media may not see, particularly when it comes to things like regulation institutions getting into the space. 2016 was very similar in that way, where there was a lot of building happening in the background, right? In 2016, we had the halvening, right, for Bitcoin, and at the same time, we were actually starting to creep up to that all-time high as well. We weren't quite there yet, but at every moment where the price started to come down briefly, even when we had issues with Ethereum or the Bitfinex hack, it didn't last long. It
Mhm.
went right back up. It started going back up, right? So it started adding confidence into the space. And even at that time, the people that were coming into crypto from 2015 and 16, right? It was a strong group, slow movement coming into the space with a lot of confidence. New projects finally coming in, like Ethereum, that were doing some really cool things. You could start to feel that there was a movement happening at that point in time, right? Which then culminated in early 2017. And I feel the same thing in Vietnam because the gatherings we have, like the events that we hold, you're seeing more participation now. Continuing growth, I should say, continuing participation. When you look at the online groups that we have, right? There's a lot more discussion about the technology as well as the price. So there's a lot more intelligence in terms of what the space actually means, what it could do potentially, right? And I think at the same time, what we're also seeing is a lot of interest in Vietnam and Southeast Asia from outside of the air region. So China in particular, they started making an entry back at the end of July. They started different companies started coming in trying to explore what they could do in Vietnam. And the reason for that again is because they realized that the retail investor community is very strong right now. In fact, on Binance and Huobi, they're ranked number five, or at least in the top five, in terms of daily active users. So we've been having so much influx from China specifically that it's been really good for us because we've been sort of that central point of communication between a number of these companies trying to come in. So we've been forming a number of collaborations as a result, and it also results in us being able to explore China as well. So we built a number of really good relationships with some of the largest projects in the space and largest companies in the space, including Wansheng Group, which is the largest blockchain-based company in the space, doing a number of investments. They work on regulation in China as well. Neo, Ontology, a number of other companies as well in the space, as well as a number of the media groups too. And it's all because there is a buzz in Southeast Asia and in Vietnam right now, specifically.
So I have a question. I appreciate you sharing all that very exciting stuff that you guys are working on. Now, I want to know hard questions here. Why
Yes.
does Southeast Asia need its own blockchains? Why would a community like Vietnam need its own blockchain? Why can't they use any of the other scalable blockchains out there that could possibly benefit from having the influx of your user base on their blockchains. Why does it benefit to have TomoChain?
Sure. No, it's a good question. So I think what we're noticing, particularly on the Asia side of things, is that um, region regional specialty actually matters. Understanding your country, understanding how the economy works there. So you end up having, like, say, for example, Neo, which has a strong base in China. People who in China, they understand the project. Tron, same thing to a degree, right? In Vietnam, TomoChain has come up, over the last couple of years, and the Vietnamese have a very strong sense of they're very patriotic for the country. I think, for one, they're able to meet the people who actually are creating this project as well. So there's a certain attachment to actually and having a national pride around having a public blockchain. I think that is actually a very strong component in Asia, and you'll see that throughout. There's even in India, like when you think about blockchain groups like Matic, for example, strong love for Matic in India. So they will support these projects because of patriotism, passion for their own country. Second thing, I think that TomoChain is incredibly scalable today. We do 2,000 TPS, 2-second block time. So it's kind of funny. What we've done these in-person meetups where what we do is we do these little airdrops, or we have people buying, Singa beer as an example for one of our adoption nights. And what happens is you have them scan a QR code from their Tomo wallet, and within 2 seconds, it's done. And most people are waiting there, either waiting for us to do an airdrop on their wallet, or they're waiting for a while to say, okay, when can I actually get my beer? But it happens in 2 seconds. It's so fast. So we have a technology already here today that works wonderfully well and can be used for transactions. So if you're going to a coffee shop, right, you don't have to have, the way I view it is, if you're using a slower blockchain today, you have to have 3 lines. One is you walk up to the register and you're waiting at the register to order. Then after you make your payment, you have a second line where you're queuing up and waiting for the transaction to actually be processed by the blockchain. And then you have the third one where you're going to pick up your coffee, right? In our case, it's not like that. So I think, yeah, so why TomoChain? I think the narrative is very strong in Southeast Asia. I think the blockchain's really fast. People are very knowledgeable of what we're doing down there in Southeast Asia as well.
So I appreciate you sharing that. I really like that. It sounds like you've sort of cycled back to, essentially using TomoChain transactionally quite a bit in your explanation. People trying to actually buy things with TomoChain. And I guess my question is, I'm sort of a big believer that, the killer app of the money layer is being handled very, very capably by Bitcoin. And that, for example, I have a crypto.com card, right, where I can use my Bitcoin like a credit card, almost exactly. And so I'm just wondering, is that the ultimate goal for TomoChain, is to be used as a currency, or what are the other, I guess, ancillary goals of TomoChain?
Sure, that's a good question again. So I think first of all, when we think about blockchain, right, when we think about TomoChain, it's one large computer. Honestly, it's a bunch of masternodes that are securing the network, but ultimately you have a lot of processing power that's there, right? So to me, I look at it as, okay, what can I do with this computational resource that is unique because it is decentralized, right? It is supposed to add a lot of security. One part is the finance side, so it's DeFi. It's the ability for users to be able to borrow and lend and to spend as well. And I think that's going to be one key component, particularly in Vietnam, because right now in Vietnam, you're not legally allowed to use anything other than Vietnam Dong to make purchases. You have to kind of go in a different direction for that. So once you become legal there, I think because of the speed of actually using TomoChain and the fact that we will be hopefully have some form of legal tender using it, that is a significant advantage to begin with. Plus, because it's fast. Yes, you're right. Yeah, and Crypto.com, other cards are actually pretty useful too. One thing, if you look at Vietnam though, credit card usage, roughly 3% of the population. Debit card usage, roughly maybe 10% of the population, right? Majority of Vietnam is cash based. So
Very interesting.
one thing that we may end up seeing is sort of a leapfrogging approach where the use of debit cards and credit cards, sure, they may be there, but because they're so cash heavy, we may end up moving beyond that into a form of digital payments directly instead
Hmm.
of having to use credit cards and debit cards.
Hmm.
And we've seen that kind of a leapfrogging effect in other places, like say, for example, in India, the idea of having a computer in the home with dial-up or even broadband,
Hmm.
um, they leapfrogged over that straight to mobile, basically
Yep.
having a cheap mobile data to access the internet. So finance is one side of things, DeFi. The other side for TomoChain, I believe, is going to be entertainment and gaming. That's going to be another core component. And again, how do you utilize that blockchain, right? And so we do strongly believe that that games and formats which actually will utilize that blockchain are going to be very important. Gaming has been one of those natural things
Hmm.
that work with new tech. I think the core difference here is that though we are actively trying to bring on more DApps onto TomoChain,
Hmm.
what I think is really going to do it is really integrating rather than bringing users into blockchain. My interest is bringing the blockchain to applications that are already there. So
Hmm.
the idea of integrating the blockchain into existing applications, mobile apps, games or otherwise, loyalty point systems, whatever it might be, where the blockchain itself is masked. Where the user doesn't necessarily have to know that they don't have to go and buy Bitcoin or Ethereum, but they can be utilized the values of the blockchain. So, if you have virtual currency in a game right now, you can create as much as you want ad nauseum, right? It's controlled by one company. With blockchain-based currencies, you actually have the ownership yourself of that currency.
Hmm.
Beyond that, NFTs are incredibly powerful too.
Hmm.
And the
Does
idea,
does
again,
TomoChain have NFT standards right now?
we do absolutely.
Awesome.
We have an NFT standard. So in that case, what ends up happening is a user who's playing a normal mobile game that they may not even know they're on the blockchain, but they start earning assets in the game, and then they start learning that they're either they're unique, and they actually own them. Even if the game shuts down, it's still their own asset. It's just an example in terms of
Yeah.
games, right? But I think that is incredibly important. So
So I have a
DeFi
question for
and
you.
gaming, please.
You're bringing, and I think this is a strategy that I'm seeing. I talk to a lot of people in this industry on all sides of the coin,
Hmm.
and what I've heard is a lot of a desire. I sort of believe that it's coming from a belief by a lot of the BD guys that you're just not going to see the real spark from the development community within blockchain, and that they need to go beyond blockchain and essentially find people who are already winning and convince them to put blockchain in. However, I've also talked to people in the gaming industry that believe that putting blockchain into some of their games might actually run counter to some of their goals and potentially threaten certain internal revenue streams. So, how do you think that you can justify these two, and how do you plan to compete with the other blockchains, which I know are already doing this, like EOS, Tron, different side chains on Ethereum, and then, of course, what was the other one? There's a lot of blockchains that are, or Neo is going after a lot of gaming titles. Even the people over at Forte and XRP are looking to add gaming titles. And I've seen almost no announcements of successful abilities to get these mainstream products. So what is your strategy to go after those? Because I feel like it's a pretty tall hill to climb to get
Hmm.
a successful gaming company to start layering in blockchain.
I agree. So I don't think the idea is to go directly after an EA or an Ubisoft or
Mm-hmm.
Ubisoft or any of these other guys. I don't think that's what makes sense. Um, See, I'm a former game dev. I was a game developer for a number of years, making mobile games specifically. I think one of the key challenges for mobile game developers, especially if you're passionate for the games you've already developed, is that you put your heart and soul into it, and you desperately want it to succeed. Sometimes what ends up happening is you don't know how to market it. Sometimes you don't have the right audience in mind, or maybe you don't have the right monetization strategies.
Mm-hmm.
And often what ends up happening is if you're not able to bring enough money in, then you end up shutting down or being acquired, or something happens basically where
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're not able to continue to do what you wanted to do. Um, And so to me, it's really about I'm looking at all these amazing indie game devs out there that have wonderful content. They're sitting on some website along with 1,000 other games. They're not getting enough attention, whether it's on the App Store or it's on an HTML5 website, gaming website, right?
Mhm.
And I think that there are certain ways in which they haven't thought about monetizing their games. That really is the integration of blockchain with NFTs and virtual currencies, which kind of adds a unique aspect to their game. In addition to that, I think the support side of things is also important, marketing and technical support. So what we're doing as we're building out TomoChain, we have an entire gaming side basically that we're running, a marketing side where we're working with developers to help them syndicate what they're working on using TomoChain technology. So it's really about helping them to spread the word, and that means that essentially as TomoChain grows, we will continue to be able to help more game developers as well who decide to use TomoChain as a technology. I think of it as partnerships, not just as a technology enabler. I think it can add, certainly, I mean, revenue stream is a big part of it, but I think it's also about continuing to be acting like partners together. So I think our real value add is that though, we don't have a war chest like a Tron or an EOS. We don't have billions of dollars sitting around at all. But what we do have is we're very smart about how exactly we can work with developers. We have access to local markets that no one else does. Vietnamese are huge gamers as well.
Mm.
So we have some new initiatives coming in where we're going to be doing ecosystem development with other sizable blockchains. And the idea is to bring on more developers, whether they're outside of blockchain or even inside of blockchain, to develop more DApps on our respective chains and to provide localization support in each country and distribution access. So I think these are strong enablers that we're trying to build. So it's not just, hey, we're a technology, come and build on us if you're an indie game dev. It's about how can we help support you. And when it comes to the larger companies out there, larger game development companies out there, I think that it's a step-by-step process to get there. The goal from day one is not to get an EA or an Ubisoft on board. That is the kind of going to be more of the final stage once we've actually proven what we're trying to do. So right
Mhm.
now it's an experimental stage, which is really what blockchain is. There is no winner yet.
Mhm.
We're all trying something, right?
Mhm.
And that's what makes it so much fun, to be honest. But to me, I want to partner with creatives. I want to enable them. That's what's important for me as a former game dev myself.
I love it. Very near and dear to my heart. A lot of the things you're saying. Obviously, we've chatted about my project specifically, and I appreciate
Right? We have.
you giving me your time for that. Well, I think you've laid out some really compelling points about TomoChain. What do you think we should be looking forward to for TomoChain over the next 12 months, as far as what you guys are looking to accomplish?
Absolutely. So right now, actually, as I mentioned kind of at the very beginning, we've launched something called Tomo X, so into testnet. So Tomo X is a decentralized DEX protocol,
Hmm.
and it's a layer one protocol, basically meaning that it is integrated into our blockchain, into our masternode network. And what it does is it allows anybody to launch their own decentralized exchange powered by the TomoChain blockchain, and it is a permissionless decentralized exchange that can be launched, meaning there's no centralized component. Order books are not centralized, matchmaking is not centralized, everything is handled by all 150 master nodes. So there's a lot of security, and it's almost a turnkey solution. So you don't have to get like a white labeled solution and then have to figure out how to make it work. Basically, you deposit some Tomo, and it within minutes you can get set up and you can start launching your own decentralized exchange. What that means is that you can focus on the business, right? Any decentralized exchange can focus on running their own business rather than trying to figure out the technical nitty gritties, which really shouldn't be required. And it also means that as we continue to upgrade the Tomo X protocol, decentralized exchanges using TomoChain will be able to essentially continue to get those upgrades as well. The other cool aspect is that there is a shared liquidity pool so that all these different decentralized exchanges they can opt into sharing the same order book. So if you have someone a user on one end who's wanting to buy a token, a user on another decentralized exchange wanting to sell a token, well, it's shared in the same order book. And there are a lot of other plugins I think that can be done because this is like decentralized KYC. There could be unique user acquisition strategies, but a number you can have dexes which partner together as well for other purposes. There's a lot that can actually be done when you're not worrying about the tech itself, and you know that it's going to be a pretty speedy solution. That's the other aspect of it is the end user experience. It's as close to a centralized exchange as you can get. So tokens transfer from one wallet to another wallet when a buy or a sell is done, and at the same time the experience is incredibly fast. So I think that's going to be a real big boon for anyone that's going to be using it as an end user or is going to be launching a decentralized exchange on top of TomoChain. So this came out just 2 days ago. Basically, we're going to be in this testnet phase over the next couple of months, and I think we're trying to figure out what's working, what's not, tweak it as is required until the mainnet comes early next year, probably sometime in early January, basically. So that's one of the big things that really fits into that whole DeFi finance side of things that we're looking at doing. So next year, as I mentioned at some point in our conversation, we're working with the government to form regulation for Vietnam specifically. So we had a symposium in September. We're going to be hopefully having a sandbox regulation put in place sometime early next year in Hanoi itself, in Hanoi, Vietnam. So we can start doing something pretty exciting there. I think, again, on the payment side of things, we're launching a new service next year as well, which is going to be focused on allowing for borrowing, lending, and buying locally, offline, and online using cryptocurrency as a very easy mechanism. And so that's also pretty exciting as well. So really, it is focused on trying to enable users to be able to use their cryptocurrencies in daily life, as well as expanding the whole narrative around why decentralized exchanges are important, right? The security aspect, the end user aspect, always being in control of your own tokens as well. So I think there's going to be plenty of that happening over the next year.
So, obviously, I think, from a speed perspective, I could see that presenting some interesting opportunities. Obviously, decentralized exchange is something that has been in the cultural nexus of cryptocurrency as an industry for quite some time. We have some leaders in the space. What else besides a DEX and DeFi do we have to look forward to? Give me some Tomo specific excitement that we can look forward to that might not be as popular on the other platforms.
Sure. So we also work with enterprises as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be some pretty exciting projects coming out of our Japan office.
Awesome.
Though we're an NDA, I can't say it specifically, but we are doing a very large pilot right now with a car manufacturer, essentially, on traceability solutions. And that process in Japan takes a while, right? It's been in discussions for, I think, about a year ago, essentially. But now we're at the POC stage. We're developing that pilot, essentially. And we have a second project also in traceability, on the traceability side as well, that's being worked on in parallel. So next year, I think it'll be pretty cool because we'll also have some enterprise-based blockchain usage also being done here with TomoChain as the core backend, essentially. So I think enterprise, finance, and gaming is going to be something that's going to be pretty big for us next year as well.
Very exciting stuff. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come out and share more about TomoChain, share more about what you guys have going on. Do you have any final words here for the FUD TV audience?
I think the main thing is patience right now. I mean, there's so much building happening in the background, so much of it. Every convention I've gone to, right, it's no longer really about price action. It's about what are we doing to really spread the usage of blockchain around the world. Everyone's trying to figure that out, and everyone's working towards that. And so I think for a lot of a lot of traders right now, the concern is: are we going to keep going down? Is pricing just not going to come back? I think if you look at Bitcoin, honestly, as your core example, we hit rock bottom at $3,000 right early in the year, and it did a 5x, 5x, right after that. There's a reason for that. There's still belief in the system, and there's a lot of building happening in the background. Institutional players are coming in, irrespective of what some people may say or may not say. A lot of institutions are coming in, and there's a lot of investment coming back into the space. It's happening in the background. So I'd say patience is the main thing, but there's a lot to be had in this space, and we haven't even touched the potential for it yet. So it's going to be a pretty exciting time moving into 2020.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kin. A lot to look forward to. Keep your guys' eyes out for TomoChain. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I know I certainly did. We covered everything from some chart action to Bitcoin bans being released. We even had an interview. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of FUD TV. As I'm not able to make tons of them, I want them all to be packed with information and substantial. If you enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor and throw a like on this video. And if you're not already subscribed to FUD TV, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is click that little subscribe button. And of course, if you hit that bell notification, you'll be made aware whenever I put out new content. As usual, I'm Elio Trades. You're watching FUD TV, and I'll see you very, very soon on the next episode.